And welcome back to another episode of Thursdays with Charlie. This is number 51 on the 6th of May, 2021. We're on our way towards 100 over there. We're starting the second 50 towards it. Well, everyone seemed to enjoy the lack of restrictions this past weekend that we had. We were able to have up to 80% capacity, no reservations, no phone numbers, no names. We actually had holy water back, which was really nice after more than a year, and so that was really good. Of course, the mask still had to be worn, and we're supposed to still keep the 3 feet of social distancing, but those things were certainly bearable in view of what we've just come through. I have to tell you, on this past Monday afternoon, I went up to Vegas. I had a meeting with the priests of my rural deanery, the 12 parishes on the outlying areas of Las Vegas. And one of the topics that we talked about were how the relaxation of the restrictions is going over in our parishes. And we all agreed on one thing, and that was that the people were most grateful for the return of holy water. That was the thing that made them feel the most normal when they came into church, that was not a vat of disinfectant, that was holy water that they could use once again. And that was true of all of our rurals. One of our rural pastors, the priest out in Tonopah, St. Patrick's Church in Tonopah, said that what he did during the pandemic when he couldn't have holy water in the fonts is every Sunday he would dip the little aspergillium, it's called, metal rod with the little thing on the bottom of it, and he would bless the people with holy water before the Mass on Sunday, and he kept them in holy water. But he said they still appreciated being able to come back now and dip their own hands in the holy water. And so that's a really, really good thing. We're very, very grateful for that once again. It's a good sign of the direction we're going in. Remind you also, our office is closed on Fridays, and that's actually working out really well. There's not an awful lot of in and out here. We still have Mass on Friday mornings, but now with not needing reservations and names and phone numbers, it really makes for a easier day, and actually for a much easier week. This weekend coming up is Mother's Day weekend. Mother's Day is on Sunday, the 9th of May, and as we've done in past years, we're doing a novena, a group of 9 Masses beginning on Mother's Day. So the 8 o'clock Mass on Mother's Day begins the novena, and it will be for all our mothers and grandmothers and others that people recommend to us on the forms that were in this past Sunday's bulletin. Many of them have come in already. Many of them are in. I'm sure many more will come in over the weekend. And we're repeating the form in this weekend's bulletin, so if you didn't get one last week, please feel free to cut it out of this week's bulletin, or just take a plain sheet of paper and write the names of mother, grandmother, godmother, aunt, sister, daughter, women who have been important to you in your life that you would like to be remembered. As soon as we receive the forms, we'll put them on the altar for the remainder of the novena, which, as I said, will begin with the 8 o'clock Mass on this Sunday. And it will continue for 9 days. We'll go the days that we have Masses here at the church. Those Masses will be offered for the Mother's Day novena once each day. And those days that we don't have Masses here at the church, I will offer a Mass privately at home for the Mother's Day novena, so we keep the consecutive 9 days going. We also mentioned last week that tickets were going to go on sale this weekend for our first show in the Garza Center, In Plain Sight, a magic show featuring John Rodolini. John is a good buddy of mine who's a magician, and he had asked before the building even went up if he could be the first show in the new building, and I gladly said yes. That will be a fun thing. The amazing thing is this week, I mentioned last weekend that the tickets will go on sale this weekend on Mother's Day weekend at the Masses, But already during this week, we've had people stopping by or calling up looking for tickets. So people are really eager to see a show in the new place, and I'm looking forward to it very, very much. At 80% capacity and with the 3 feet social distancing, we should have no trouble fitting in just about 220 people, so we should be fine with plenty of room for the first show in the new building, and we're looking forward to it. Speaking of Father Garces and the Garces Center, I learned something new this week when I was up at my rural deanery meeting on Monday in Las Vegas. The Vicar General happened to stop by, and Monsignor Gordon, Gregory Gordon, is the Vicar General for the Diocese of Las Vegas. He's a good friend of mine, he's a good friend of our parish, and he has a real interest in Father Garces. And all of the priests of the Diocese of Las Vegas are going on retreat to California next month in June, the first week of June, from the 7th to the 11th. And Monsignor Gordon said to me, he said, Charlie, he says, you realize we're going to be in Alhambra. We're only about a mile away from the mission of St. Gabriel. And San Gabriel Mission was built way, way back in the 1700s, the early 1700s, and its roof collapsed recently, and so they're trying very desperately to get it rebuilt, the roof, so that the church can be open for its 250th anniversary, which will take place this September. And I said, well, that's wonderful. St. Gabriel would be amazing to see. He said, no, but he said, the real reason I'm telling you, he said, after Father Garces left Laughlin on March 4th in 1776, he traveled across the Mojave Trail and got to the California coast, and on March 24th, 1776, he stayed for several days at the San Gabriel Mission and actually had a face-to-face meeting with Father Junipero Serra, who was also at the mission. Now, I knew there had been an exchange of letters between these two great missionaries. I was not aware in my mind that they had actually met for several days just after Father Garces had been in Laughlin. I kind of like to think that he was busy telling Father Junipero Serra how wonderful it is along the Colorado River. So I'm looking forward to taking part of my retreat time, and Monsignor Gordon and I were going to head over to San Gabriel Mission. Whether they'll let us inside or not, since they're doing work on the ceiling and the roof, I don't know, but we'll at least get near it, and it's one more piece in the Father Garces story that I will get to enjoy and certainly get to tell you about. And with Mother's Day coming this weekend, I decided I wanted on the show to talk a little bit about things that relate to our religion and mothers. And the first one is Mary is our mother. Catholics look upon Mary as our mother. Very, very much. When we say the Hail Mary, we're really speaking to our mother. And this goes all the way back to Jesus on the cross saying to St. John, who was there, behold your mother, and to Mary, behold your son. Jesus gave us in the form of St. John to his mother, and gave Mary, his mother, to us in giving her to St. John, gave her to all of us as a mother. And I think that's a really beautiful trait that we Catholics have. We consider Mary family. We consider her Mama Mary, Mama Maria. She's the one that we can go to just like a mother in our life. And it occurred to me when I think about the apparitions of Mary over the years, when she appeared as Our Lady of Guadalupe in 1531 to Juan Diego, one of her famous expressions in those apparitions was, she said to Juan Diego, "Am I not your mother? Do I not care for you as a mother?" I think it's a beautiful part of that apparition, besides the beautiful image, which we have the mosaic in the front of our church, but the idea that Mary used that occasion to reinforce the idea that she is our mother, saying to Juan Diego, "Am I not your mother? Do I not care for you as a mother?" I think it's good for us to remember that on Mother's Day. And while I was thinking of that and the apparitions of Mary, I thought about songs to Mary. There are so many songs that honor Mary, but there are two that came to mind very readily as honoring her as our mother. And these will be very familiar to people, especially those who went to Catholic schools in the 50s and the 60s or even earlier. But they're probably familiar to all Catholics at some point for having heard the melody. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing them to you. I'm interested in the words right now, not the melodies. But the first one, the title just gives it away. Mother dearest, mother fairest. What a beautiful way to even think of a song honoring our mother, Mary. Mother dearest, mother fairest. Let me just refresh a few of the words there. Mother dearest, mother fairest, help of all who call on thee. Virgin purest, brightest, rarest, help us, help, we cry to thee. Continues, Lady, help in pain and sorrow, soothe those racked on beds of pain. May the golden light of morrow bring them health and joy again. And the chorus repeats, Mother dearest, mother fairest, help of all who call on thee. Virgin purest, brightest, rarest, help us, help, we cry to thee. A beautiful song. Certainly you can pick it up even if you hear the melody. Sometimes we play it here at church, even the beautiful melody in May, and I think you're going to hear it sooner rather than later on that. The other one that came to my mind right away, besides Mother dearest, mother fairest, is On This Day, O Beautiful Mother. A beautiful Marian hymn, again very familiar with Catholics in the 40s and the 50s if they went to a Catholic school, but to all of us as well. On this day, O beautiful mother, on this day we give you our love. Near thee, Madonna, fondly we hover, trusting thy gentle care to prove. On this day we ask to share, dearest mother, thy sweet care. Aid us ere our feet astray wander from thy guiding way. On this day, O beautiful mother, on this day we give you thee our love. Near thee, Madonna, fondly we hover, trusting thy gentle care to prove. Beautiful Marian hymns. I'm sure there are many others that I have forgotten, but we'll try to hit them now and again. And I think those two bring back wonderful memories for so many of us of our childhood. They might even remind us of something that we used to do called a May procession, a May crowning, honoring Mary. We're going to do a little something like that at our 8 o'clock Mass this very weekend, so some of you will get to see something like that in very person. But Mary is not the only Catholic reference when we think of Mary as our mother. The whole church is considered our mother. You may have recalled many older priests referring to Holy Mother the Church. Holy Mother Church. Even the pronoun we use for her is her, Mother Church. We don't refer to the church generally as it, and we certainly don't refer to it as him, but we refer to Mother Church as her. If you go back in history, as we've been doing during these days of the Easter season, reading from the Acts of the Apostles, the Catholic Church is the first of the Christian churches. It dates back to Jesus himself. And so it's our mother church in so many, many ways. In fact, if you were Christian in the early centuries of Christianity, you were Catholic. There was no other choice. You were Catholic if you were Christian. In the year 1054, there's something that happened that's called the Great Schism. And the Great Schism was a break between Western Christianity, centered in Rome, and Eastern Christianity, centered in Constantinople. That was the first big break in the church, and it took more than 1,000 years before that occurred. The next big break that came in the church was in 1517 with the Protestant Reformation. So up until about 1054, if you were Christian, you basically were Catholic. After 1054, if you were Christian, you were either Catholic if you were following the Roman diocese, or you were Orthodox if you were following Constantinople. After 1517, the various groups within Protestantism developed so that there were Christians who were Lutherans, there were Christians who were Episcopalians, there were Christians who were various other groups that developed, Calvinists at that time. And then beyond that, there have been many groups that have broken away yet still from the Protestant churches, and they've become other individual Christian denominations. So to be Christian right now does not necessarily mean you're Catholic, but it used to for 1,000 years. To be Christian was to be Catholic. It was also interesting to consider where Mother's Day came from. And Mother's Day has an interesting, I thought, a fascinating history. The Romans and the Greeks all had days or seasons or feasts to honor mothers. They felt that motherhood was something to be revered, and frequently they connected it with some of their female goddesses. They would connect those days. Moving up from the time of the Romans and the Greeks, in the early churches, well, Mary, anything centering around Mary was a cause for honoring mothers, Mary, the mother of Jesus. But in England, around the 1700s and 1800s, they developed something called Mothering Sunday. And Mothering Sunday was traditionally on the fourth Sunday of Lent. And it was mainly in England, although it was in other parts of the English Empire as well. But what it meant is on that Mothering Sunday, you would try to go back to your mother church, to your mother parish, to be where you began as a Christian, if that meant going cross town or cross country. I think that's a beautiful custom, the idea of Mothering Sunday. Some of that carried over even into the Americas as well. The official Mother's Day that we're familiar with dates back a lot less years. There was a woman named Anna Reeves Jarvis, who around the time of the Civil War in the United States, the 1860s, was putting together groups of young women, and they were called mothering groups. And the idea was you would gather these women with women who were mothers, and you would let them discuss, talk, spend time together to learn how best to care for the home, the children, everything else that a mother took on so much. Those mothering groups became very, very popular, and in some places they were considered essential to the recovery that had to take place in our nation after the Civil War. Anna Reeves Jarvis lived until 1905. She died in 1905, the same year, by the way, that Las Vegas was established. Her daughter was also named Anna Jarvis, and when Anna Reeves Jarvis died in 1905, her daughter, Anna Jarvis in Pennsylvania, set out to find a way to honor her mother. And her idea was that there should be a special day to honor mothers. And she felt that mothers should be honored by people paying visits to them, spending time with them, and going to church with them. She labored for that very, very much, and from 1905 until 1908, she really worked to try to make that popular, and the first Mother's Day in the United States was celebrated on the 10th of May, 1908 in Grafton, Pennsylvania. And while it was celebrated there, it was just a local celebration. She was helped in it by John Wanamaker of John Wanamaker's stores, the department store in Philadelphia. What Macy's and Gimbel's were to New York, what Hanes was to Newark, New Jersey, Wanamaker's was to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And Anna Jarvis got John Wanamaker interested in it. So from 1908, for the next 6 years until 1914, with the help of John Wanamaker and with enlisting other people through letters, through speeches, through talks all over the place, Anna Jarvis promoted the idea that there should be a national holiday honoring mothers. And in 1914, President Woodrow Wilson designated the second Sunday in May to be Mother's Day. Almost immediately, it was a hit. People liked the idea of honoring their mothers. But something also happened almost immediately. It became very commercialized. Florists jumped in with the idea, well, you should give flowers to your mothers. Candy makers jumped in. You should give candy to your mothers. Card makers jumped in. Get a card, a special card for your mother. And the whole idea that Anna Jarvis had, you should go to church with your mother, you should spend time with your mother, seemed to get lost in all the commercialism. And here's the really odd part. Anna Jarvis started Mother's Day in 1908 to honor her mother, and she worked feverishly until 1914 to get it declared a national holiday. Almost immediately, it became very commercialized, and she hated that. She hated the thought of flowers replacing an actual visit, candy replacing actually going to church, a formal card being sent rather than in person going or remembering your mother at church if she had died. And so, for almost the next 40 years, until she died in 1948, Anna Jarvis worked to get Mother's Day removed from the list of national holidays, the thing she had worked for so hard. It seems kind of ironic that that would happen. One little bit of trivia about Mother's Day is there are more phone calls on Mother's Day than any other day in the year. The companion to that used to be, although I don't think it exists anymore, there are more collect phone calls on Father's Day than any other day in the year. Well, on Mother's Day, I have to think of my own mother, and I want to tell you my favorite Mother's Day story about my mom. My mom was 35 years old when I was born, and this would be back in 1948. And Mom never worked at that time outside of the house. She did later on in her life, but at that time she did not. Nor had she gone to college. She had gone to secretarial school for a while, but she had never gone to college. And so there was this one day, it was in the summer, and I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. It was in the early 1950s, and I was sitting on my back porch with a bunch of my friends, all of whom lived in the neighborhood. We used to get together every day after school. And we were sitting there, and the conversation of these young guys turned to our mothers. And one of my friends said, well, my mother went to college. And in the early 1950s, in our neighborhood, that was kind of an achievement. It was like not everybody did that. And my mother hadn't done that. And he was bragging about his mother. My mother went to college. I thought that was wonderful, but I had nothing I could say. And another one of my friends had a mother who was working at a regular job. She wasn't just being mother at home. She was working all day and being mother at home. And he said, my mother has a job, just like my dad. And I couldn't say that about my mother. My mother worked at home at the time. Later on in life, she did go out and get what I would consider a full-time job. But she had a full-time job being mother. And I had nothing to say. And it kind of went around the group, and I felt left out. And you know I don't like to feel left out. I don't like to not have something to say. And so I thought, and in all my 7 or 8 years, I decided I had to say something. And so as loud as I could, I said, well, my mother is older than your mother's. And I thought I had won the argument. What I didn't realize is my mom was in the kitchen, and she had overheard the whole thing. And for some reason, she wasn't absolutely thrilled that I had won the argument in the way that I had done it. My mother is older than your mother's. My friends still remember that. I wanted to bring a couple of pictures of Mom just to show you, and I know this one you've seen before. It's Mom and I on the day that I celebrated my first Mass. That was May the 26th in 1974. And I brought over two other pictures. Some of you may remember the Rio Hotel up in Las Vegas. It was opened in 1995. And one of the things that made the Rio special is they had Masquerade Village, where you could get dressed in costumes and ride on floats above the casino on these mechanized floats. And Mom and I did that several times, many times in the years that follow. This is Mom and I and some unnamed cast member as we rode around dressed as pirates on the floats in Las Vegas. It was a wonderful time, and I'm sorry that Masquerade Village doesn't exist anymore. The Rio Hotel got rid of it several years ago, and it's just another casino right now. Well, it's time for Pascal to come and join us, and with Mother's Day in mind, I figured we would take a quote from Jesus regarding his mother. And this is what Jesus said, in Latin it is, to St. John at the foot of the cross. Ecce mater tua. Behold your mother. He's pointing to Mary. And that's how Mary became mother not only of St. John, but mother of all of us. Happy Mother's Day, and thanks for being with us.